Go.
Go Hogs!
We got an actual Razorback fan here to kick off our Thursday night live stream. It's my friend Elijah. He is a huge Arkansas Razorback fan, and he wants to share a few thoughts on his Arkansas Razorback fandom. So, Elijah, what do you think about KJ Jefferson and the Arkansas Razorbacks next year? Get up on, let him know. Get up on there. Don't be nervous. Get up there.
I really don't have an answer for that.
Elijah told me he thinks Arkansas is going undefeated next year. There you go.
Yeah, I said that earlier, but I forgot whenever I said that. So
there you go. So Elijah.
That is what I said.
Elijah's one of the neighborhood kids here. We have a huge team called the Giraffes. He wanted to talk to you guys. Elijah, thank you so much for coming on, man.
You're welcome.
We'll see you later. All right.
See ya.
Make sure Z-Baby doesn't get out. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
My swagger bag.
He's got his swag. So I love it, man. Shout out to Elijah. He wanted to hang out with you guys tonight. And we have a lot to get to on what should be a fun live stream, okay? We're talking about Rocket Sanders. We're talking about the defense taking a major leap. And we have a very special guest coming up in just a second, Demetrius Johnson, one of the sharpest Arkansas Razorback media members out there. So I'm always very clear. I grew up in Arkansas, went to high school in Arkansas, but my whole family's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I've always had this weird relationship with Arkansas Razorback football, right? I've always liked them. All my friends obviously went to Arkansas. They still live in Fayetteville. So there's always a piece of me knowing that it makes people in my orbit happy that I want Arkansas to be successful, okay? But obviously, I'm an LSU fan, and I like all the teams in the SEC outside of Florida and Texas A&M, but I'm just kidding. My goal here on this channel is to provide as objective Arkansas Razorback analysis and as objective SEC analysis as I possibly can. So I'm going to do my absolute best in doing just that for you today. Now, first thing I want to talk about here, when it comes to the Arkansas Razorback football team heading into next year, how do we feel about Rocket Sanders, right? This is a guy who went on the scene last year and had over 1,000 yards rushing. But today, I truly do believe there will be a minor step back for Rocket Sanders going into next year. And that may actually be a very good thing if you're an Arkansas Razorback fan. So I feel like any Kendall Briles or any Art Briles system is going to increase yardage for pretty much every single person in the offense if you run the system correctly. I feel as if Rocket Sanders is a guy who fits a Briles offense really well. He hits the hole and he's got some real big playability. But now Kendall Briles is gone. And it's important to point out, we did a huge film study on Rocket Sanders earlier in the year, and Rocket Sanders had one of the best rush yards before contact averages in the entire SEC, essentially meaning he had wide open holes to run through last year. Also, something else is we did see Rocket Sanders regress as the season moved on. He got banged up. Obviously, KJ Jefferson got banged up. And really, after that Auburn game, Rocket Sanders only had one good game for the rest of the season, and that was against Ole Miss when he went for over 200 yards. But it's important to go look at the film because in that game, he once again had wide open holes to run through. He was running through holes and having 60, 70-yard touchdowns while not even being touched. So I truly do believe two things. The first is Rocket Sanders is a very good SEC running back. I truly do believe that. The second, though, is I feel with the new system and Arkansas wanting to keep Rocket Sanders fresher throughout the course of next season. And this is actually a good thing for the Razorbacks because you want a deeper backfield. Last year, AJ Green and Rashad Dubinion wasn't as good as I thought that they would be. And now you get those two guys back. You also get Dominique Johnson back. You also get the Isaiah Augustave guy from Florida. I like his tape a lot, and he's actually built for the SEC. I love his size. And I will say this at the beginning. It is interesting that we're talking about running backs. RIP Alex Collins, one of my favorite SEC backs ever, 3,000-yard seasons. And you got to remember, Alex Collins came early in the Brett Bielema era. This was a guy who really fell in love with Fayetteville and put everything he could into being an Arkansas Razorback, and probably had a far longer and better NFL career than anybody could have imagined. So RIP to a legend. I think Augustave very well could be the number 2 back behind Rocket Sanders this year. It's just going to come down to if the other backs in this offense can step up. And that's what you're going to need, right? You look at the best SEC backfields in the conference, they are deep, right? Even those great Mark Ingram backfields, they were loaded. Obviously, we know the story of Darren McFadden. We know the story of Leonard Fournette. Those are the true legends of the modern-day SEC era. But those guys had Peyton Hillis, Felix Jones, Darius Geis, Darrell Williams, guys that played in the league, guys that got drafted right behind them. So I think part of Rocket Sanders' success was the lack thereof of successful backs behind him. And I think that's going to change. I think some of those guys are going to get even better next year. So I feel like Rocket Sanders is a guy that will have a good season. He will get drafted, but I do feel some major regression is coming. But I like Rocket. I love the nickname. I just like watching him play. He's a very exciting player to play. And that Alabama run was very underrated last season. As Chance points out, Rocket is a great name. So there you go. Pork rind schedule does their inbred hillbilly fans no favor. Ooh, NFL LSU slinging mud here. It is a tough schedule, but it is easier than last year's schedule in my mind. But I would also say this, all right, as someone that grew up in Arkansas, who also has lived in other places, I do think there are inbred hillbillies pretty much everywhere in the South, if we're being fair. But look, I'm proudly Cajun. I'm proudly Creole. If you're a hillbilly, take it in. Enjoy it. Now, next thing I'll say. Arkansas Razorback defense. What do we think about the Arkansas Razorback defense going into next season? I think they're going to be far more aggressive. I think gone are the days of just allowing people to run the football right down your throats. Gone are the days of the Arkansas Razorback front not being as deep as you thought that they would be in these past couple of seasons. I love me some Terry Hampton, but he's gone. Now you're going to need some guys to step up and man those defensive tackles. I am growing on Tank Booker, the transfer that's coming in, but hopefully next year, if you are an Arkansas Razorback fan, you are going to find the ability to stop the run. Okay, that's going to be very key in Travis Williams' new defense. Now, what I want to do is bring on a guest who I have known for quite some time. We met many years ago at SEC Media Days, and we're actually going to go to someone that covers Arkansas, is on the Hill, goes to all the events. He's going to Razorback soccer tonight. Show some love from On the Hill Media, DJ himself, Demetrius Johnson. What's good, my man? Can you hear me? I can't hear him. He can't hear me. Let me see. Is that me? No, let me see. Let me see. He can't hear me. I can't hear him at all. I think he's muted. You're muted. Let me see. I don't know what's going on here. Type Y for yes, type N for no if you can't hear him. Or can you hear me? Type Y for yes if you can hear me. Hopefully it's not me. But he said he couldn't. Type Y for yes if you can hear me. Just let me know. Let's go here. Steelix. Will Sanders have 2,000 all-purpose yards? Okay, so Chance says he couldn't hear him, which is kind of strange because he didn't have any kind of, when you have like the fancy microphone, it can actually get a little strange. But yeah, I have no idea why I couldn't hear him. Let's see here. Chance, you've been rocking with me for a while. You know there can be technical difficulties. I don't think so. I really don't. I think you don't want him to have that. I also think with the Arkansas offensive line, I think the middle of Arkansas's offensive line is going to be the best in the SEC. It's going to be interesting to see how they pass protect on the edges, though, this next year. I think, obviously, Bo Limmer is definitely one of the best players in the Southeastern Conference. So, you know, we'll see how that sets up for Arkansas next year. And yeah, let's see if we could get Demetrius on here. Let's see. All righty.
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah, I had to go run and go get some headphones.
No, you're all good, man. So, first thing, you go to practice. You get to see, you actually put the work in. For those that aren't able to go to practice every single day, what is the biggest difference from last year to this year through your eyes?
The biggest difference that I see in Arkansas is they actually look like an SEC team. I know that's kind of basic to say, but they physically look stand out. You see guys that look like SEC caliber guys. You know, you have the transfer from Missouri coming in, you know, SEC defensive player of the year. So you have bodies that look imposing when they get off the bus, and it's not one or two. It's collective groups now. And then you also see a difference in speed. You can clearly see they have guys over there that run track that were highly recruited. You see guys that, you know, can tell you about Nick Saban coming to their house. So there's a big difference as far as just the physical look of the Razorbacks this year.
And that's one thing I think, Demetrius Johnson on the Hill Media joining us here. One thing I've seen is the transfer portal. You know, everyone says, well, the elites are going to have even more talent now. But I think a school like Arkansas, a school like Ole Miss, they're able to get the guys from those big schools that might not have been getting a lot of playing time, like obviously Drew Sanders last year. So I think when I look at a guy like Tank Booker or Jeff Coat, you mentioned the Missouri transfer, I think it's been a huge plus for Arkansas.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's just guys transferring from major schools. You look at a receiver like Tesla, which I think is going to be a huge part of the Razorbacks offense, you know, coming from a smaller division up, a D2 school. And you're going to see a lot of kids maybe didn't have the grades or maybe didn't have the attention coming out of high school that were, you know, highly known in their area and known to be a baller. And you're going to see them get their opportunity and not be stuck in that. Once upon a time, if you went to D2, it was kind of hard to come up and play at a different level. But you're going to see a big change of guys going from D1 to D2 and D2 to D1. So it's going to be interesting just seeing how players are moved around. And it's really chess now when it comes to NIL and what guys are having to do to get those major guys from bigger schools onto their campus and to really stay and be a part of the team.
What do you think about Arkansas's NIL up to this point?
I think they have a lot to learn. I think because of the powers that may be behind scenes, that they're a little bit slower to get with the trends, just because they have tradition, and nothing's wrong with that. But I think they're going to have to eventually get with the program, because once upon a time, you know, playing a player was illegal, but they're going to have to figure out how to find that balance and not even just that balance with money, but just finding communities that help these kids want to be at Arkansas. You know, Arkansas is known as one of those kind of old traditional style schools, predominantly white. So they're going to have to kind of get with the times, making it conducive to African Americans coming to the program. When you're coming from Atlanta, when you're coming from a Houston, when you're coming from a Florida, they're definitely going to have to change the environment to really make it where kids really want to be a part of the Razorbacks for the Razorbacks and not just the money. Because now, you know, a kid can throw money at you all day, but now it's about, can you build that environment that makes the kid want to be here 3 years? You know, it's not even about the, you know, 1 year now. Can you keep a kid on campus for 3 years to actually develop them? Because now you do have NIL and the transfer portal. So again, I think if they have the money. You know, Arkansas is probably one of the top grossing universities, period. You know, I want to say they were in top 10 when it came, or top 25 when it came to how much athletic departments were making. So money's not an option. So I think, again, if they can continue to build and foster an environment for diversity, I think they can definitely compete with the LSU and the Auburns and the Alabamas.
Yeah, and I think Northwest Arkansas is a great place. Like, obviously, I haven't visited in a while, but all my friends moved there and they love it there. So, you know, I was reading some old Alex Collins clippings, and he was talking about how quickly he fell in love with Fayetteville. So, you know, when, you know, from an LSU perspective, kids love living in Baton Rouge. Do you think college kids from all these different backgrounds, do you think they're enjoying Northwest Arkansas?
I do. I think it can be a culture shock. You know, right. A lot of people don't know I grew up in South Korea, so I'm military. Wow. So it was crazy going from South Korea, and then I went to Grambling State for a year, and then to go to an all-black school, and then come to Arkansas. And I would say Arkansas was probably the biggest shock out of going from Korea to a HBCU, and then going to a private institution. Well, it's not a private institution, but a PWI, I should say.
Right.
But yeah, it was a adjustment just to not only the lifestyle, but the business level. You know, Fayetteville's known for Northwest Arkansas is known for business. So when you come here, there's a certain level of it's a certain way you have to move in these areas because there is a lot of money. You know, you have Walmart, the Tysons. So there's a lot of opportunity, but it also makes you sometimes have to adjust the way you were probably brought up in your normal environment.
Yeah. I love it. I love being there. And this comes from an LSU guy. And what's interesting is a lot of my viewers actually made the trip to Fayetteville for the first time, and they said that was the best SEC city that they've been to. Now, for me, it's always going to be Baton Rouge number 1, Athens number 2. But Fayetteville has always been my number 3. So I do enjoy it. Now, back to the team here. I feel as if after this next season, we get this question here from Steve Licks. Will a healthy KJ Jefferson exceed 3,000 yards passing in a Dan Enos offense? So your thoughts on KJ? Do you feel by the end of this next season, people will be looking at him as arguably the best Razorback quarterback ever?
I think he will, just with the amount of time that he's had as a starter. You know, it really hasn't been that much consistency probably since the Allen brothers have came through, where you had a quarterback. You know, when you think of Tyler Wilson, he was maybe here 2 years. Right. So he's probably the longest tenured quarterback that we've had for a while that actually started. So I think he will probably be in that conversation. It's probably top quarterbacks to come out. Now, addressing the 3,000 mark, the 3,000 yard mark passing, I'm not sure. And the reason why I say that is because it's not all on KJ to make sure that happens. Right. And what I mean by that is I still have a lot of question marks about the offensive line. I don't know if they're gonna give him that type of protection throughout the year to throw for that many yards. And I think we're going to be a dominant run team. I think when you look at who we have in the backfield, and even when you look at the style of play that KJ has, he's a dual threat quarterback. Not saying he can't throw the ball, but I'm pretty sure this year they're actually going to implement some type of actual run plays for him to kind of offset the defense. So I'm not sure about that 3,000 yards, but I'm for sure I positively can say he'll probably be one of the top Razorback quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC, and I think he's special. Actually, I just bought a bunch of KJ Jefferson cards to give out here. I'm buying this stuff up. I really love watching him play. Let's go to Dave. Of the running backs behind Rocket, from your perspective, Demetrius, who do you think is most likely to be that number 2 guy?
Man, it's kind of hard. I think by default they're gonna go with AJ Green, and I think they're gonna give it to him because of seniority, as far as him being older, the eldest statesman outside of Rocket. And I must say, AJ's had a monster camp. I mean, when I actually look at the running backs, man, he's really stood out on tape. I think the type of running back he is, he has a little bit of everything that maybe all the other running backs have. But they don't probably possess what he has. He has probably the most wiggle out of the two, probably him and Dubin, as far as just being able to put your foot in the ground and make a move. I think Rocket's more of a downhill runner. He's not really a jukester. He's probably going to stiff arm you or truck you. So I definitely probably have to just say AJ, with even his style of it being a faster pace back.
I love it. I know you got to get ready. You're going to Razorback soccer.
Yeah, so I'm just trying something new this year. You know, this will be my first game actually attending Razorback soccer. You know, it's actually just myself and Pat Jenkins that are a part of the company, so it's kind of hard for us to kind of venture out. But this year, I'm really going to make effort to go out and really support other athletics this year in search of some potential NIL students as well. So. I'm just really going outside the box this year as far as Razorback athletics.
Good, man. Yeah, well, all of my buddies are one of my buddies was a soccer coach for Springdale for a long time, and we're all huge soccer fans. So I love women's soccer. I really do. So you'll enjoy it. Yeah. So have you ever been to a soccer game before?
Well, actually, soccer was my first sport. My father actually got me into soccer as my first sport. So I do have somewhat of a little background in soccer, but this will actually be my first soccer Razorback game. Yes, sir.
On the Hill Media, but you also do music.
Oh, yes. I have a recording studio, Sauced Up Entertainment, where we kind of do all the production for On the Hill Media. And now we're starting to get into collaboration partnerships with On the Hill Media, where we're doing documentaries. We actually released a pilot last year of Walking with the Dogs with Fayetteville High School. We didn't actually release it. There was a couple of things we kind of wanted to change, but this year, now that we have the system kind of down for doing documentaries, we plan on doing a series throughout the state tournament and throughout the season, just following the Dogs and documenting their season.
There you go. So Fayetteville High School, for those that don't know, a lot of my LSU viewers, it's like U-High with LSU.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's right there, right next to Donald W. It's probably about like a mile and a half.
You can throw a rock, and they just got a new athletic facility, so it's going to be crazy. They really put a lot of money in it, and then they're sponsored by Jordan as well, so there's a lot of hype behind.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they have a lot of recruits. They have Drake Lindsay, who's going to Minnesota. He's a big recruit. So they're going to have a lot of national attention on their program this year.
So their best player, Fayetteville High School, would be Brandon Allen, right?
Like all time?
Yeah, all time.
Yeah, I probably would have to say stat-wise for them, but I think legendary would probably be Austin probably BA because he got the Super Bowl ring. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Brandon Allen fan.
Yeah, probably BA still in the league. What is he back on the Bengals now? Where is he now?
So he was backing up my dear beloved Joe Burrow, but now he is fighting for a roster spot with the 49ers.
Okay.
And I actually
Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, so I it's true. I never made that connection. Yep. So what high school did Dre Greenlaw go to?
He went to Fayetteville as well. Yeah, he went to Fayetteville as well.
So it's either Brandon or Dre Greenlaw, right?
Absolutely.
So Dre Greenlaw is like a really good NFL linebacker, but yeah, I watched Brandon Allen's preseason game, and he was throwing dots, but the guys were dropping him. There was one
Yeah.
dropped interception and all that stuff. So yeah, and the one thing, what would be a good documentary? The one thing that I want to know, all right, and I know one of Brandon's good friends, right? I want to know who burned down his truck.
Oh, I remember that when we lost the game. I remember that.
I
remember that.
if there is anything that I want to know in the history of the SEC, if there is one unsolved mystery, because there's it's crazy now, like with the documentary companies, I know you're trying to get into it, but there's all this weird crap, right?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, it just came out that Johnny Manziel, the oil money thing was a farce, right? He got all. Okay, yeah. So he was rich off the autographs, and I've always been into sports collecting. I really wasn't in it back then, but it made sense, right? If he signed something, he probably got $50 a signee, and you sign 5,000 stuff, you're rolling in the dough, right? And all you're doing is just. So we have all these mysteries unsolved. So I am putting it in your soul, Demetrius.
For sure.
And then Netflix comes and they might buy you out of the deal.
Hey, for sure. I'll make sure I break you off for the IP. I definitely
right.
Sure.
Yes. So obviously Brandon doesn't know. All right, who burned his truck down? I can't think of who would do such a thing. I can't. But I want to know. So if anybody here has any leads, I am at Carter the Power on Twitter or Instagram, and I'm willing to fund this project to get to the bottom of it. And then we can do just that. All right, before we let you go, we know you got to get to the Razorback Soccer Stadium. What is a record prediction? Do you feel pretty good? Their over/under win total floats around 7. Do you feel pretty good about?
Yeah.
You feel good about 7?
Oh yeah, they're. I think you'll see a drastic difference on the defensive side of the ball, and that's where you're going to see a lot of us win games. I think their defense is going to be probably top 3, 4 in the SEC. I think they actually have depth on the entire side, maybe outside of linebacker. Even when you look at their DBs, they're loaded at DBs. Defensive line, they're probably 2, 3 deep. And then it's just a question on their linebackers, but they have All-American in Poopaw. Then you have Singleton that just moved over. So there's a couple of guys that people are expecting to really come in and play some big parts of that defense.
Johnny says nobody burned his truck from what I heard. It was made out. That's the mystery, unsolved mysteries right there.
Look,
I would love to know the answer because it is bizarre. It's bizarre.
That is interesting. We've never seen a picture. So, in America, usually if you don't see a picture or a video, it wasn't true.
But my retort to that was like, what was that? That was mid 2010. So
Instagram wasn't popping like that, huh?
Yeah. So it could just be that it burned. I think I've seen a photo of it, though.
Yeah.
I think I've seen a photo of it.
Because when it was a black truck.
Yeah, it was a black truck. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay. It might be out there.
No, I think it did happen. I've heard there is a secondary story that I won't say aloud here. That lends me to believe, Dimitri,
allegedly,
that it actually did happen. I truly do believe it. But obviously, I'm a huge Brandon Allen fan. I think he got the biggest disservice, and I'm a Bielema defender, so I know I'm going to lose a lot of people on that. But I'm a Bielema defender.
You lost me on that one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. People that cover the team feel very differently about that. I think Bielema's biggest crime was not letting Brandon Allen break the single game touchdown record versus Dak. Because, they were going for the game-winning drive, and Bielema settled for a field goal. Yep. If Brandon Allen would have thrown one final touchdown, he would still have the SEC single game record for 8 touchdowns. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do.
That game versus Dak. Oh man, I was in. Dude, that was.
Then, would you say that's your favorite game? Is that your top BA game.
Yeah, that's the funnest Arkansas game I've ever been to.
Man,
right?
I don't know if you saw the TCU game, but that was probably the best game I saw in the Razorback. Arkansas TCU, when they went down to TCU and they had the double overtime.
Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. It was like 56-54 or something like that. It was a high score game. Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Yeah, obviously the best one, RIP Alex Collins again, is 4th and 25. I would say 4th and 25 was the best, like the most exciting Arkansas game.
For sure.
And then the most exciting game that Arkansas probably lost was the Jason Witten Tennessee game.
Ooh, I was out of there. I don't even think I was watching Arkansas football.
Go look that one, man.
I can check it out.
That was when Jason Witten was a dog, man. He wore a single-digit number. He wore number 1.
Yeah.
He was cold-blooded, man. But that was a 7 overtimer. I remember watching that when I was very, very little.
I have to check that one out.
Yeah. All right, we'll let you go to Razorback Soccer Stadium. Let me know how it goes, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Tell Pat I say hello, okay?
I will do.
All right, cheers. It's Demetrius Johnson. On the Hill Media, Sauce Tuck Music. NFL LSU unsubscribed a dozen other LSU channels. Okay, this isn't my LSU channel. So don't let the door hit you on the way out. 7 overtimes at Ole Miss when Matt Jones beat Eli Manning. Yeah, I thought so. I'm a huge Manning fan. More Peyton than Eli, but still. I thought that I saw a photo Eli Manning took with Matt Jones last year in the 7 overtime game. So I truly do believe that game is definitely up there. But was that even the best overtime game at Ole Miss? I still think 4th and 25 is the best ending of an Arkansas Razorback game I've ever seen. That's still the most bizarre play I've ever seen. 4th and 25. Johnny, that was a fake story. You always got to have your BS meter on high. Okay. Here's a good example of this. All right. Actually, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this one. There are quite a few Razorback stories in particular because, I grew up in Arkansas and I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm a fan of many other teams, such as LSU, the Saints, Liverpool, as you could tell. But I would see a lot of Arkansas stories, and I'd be like, wow, that's kind of bizarre. And the one that I always go back to is the Brandon Allen truck being burned. That is still crazy to me, that somebody thought that was a good idea. I mean, that would have me shook if somebody burned down my vehicle. Like that lets you know that we probably should take a step back from football. So, yeah. Now, here's what we're going to do. I've had my guest on. I will take as many Arkansas Razorback related questions. We will be live throughout the course of the year, Thursdays nights at 6 p.m. Let an SEC fan know. Let a Razorback fan know. Now, coming up, we will be starting a live stream that is just SEC football focused. Okay. So it's not just Arkansas, but I started this Arkansas only live stream because, well, you guys support the channel more than anybody else. So I wanted to do a channel answering all your Arkansas related questions and it just be about Arkansas. Now, one thing I do want to bring up is Arkansas Razorback recruiting. I think the recruiting's been pretty solid. I think Sam Pittman is doing about where Arkansas does historically. And I am not sure if it really can go much better at Arkansas. Um, I have a lot of buddies that coach Arkansas high school football, a ton. But even they would say, the recruiting framework in the state of Arkansas just isn't good enough, and you really got to go out and get as many guys as you possibly can. But I want to bring this up because even if Arkansas got to the point where they were landing, a 5-star here, a 5-star there, I don't think it would change a whole lot for the Arkansas Razorbacks because you need to get those guys in bulk. And I just don't think Arkansas has what it takes to get those guys in bulk. What I do think Arkansas has in their repertoire is doing what they are doing now, which is getting the transfer portal scraps from the other schools. And what that does for you is you get a more adult football player, a more proven football player. You also get a football player who is on his second chance, if you will. So they come in with the chip on their shoulder that it didn't work out at the first school. And those are your guys like Dwight McGlothern and Landon Jackson. They were really elite prospects that went to LSU, and they were buried on the depth chart, and they decided to go somewhere else. More so Jackson buried on the depth chart. McGlothern would obviously start at LSU, would start at a lot of places now. And you take a look at, some of these other positions, a guy like Singletary, who's coming in from Georgia, a guy like Jeffcoat, who came over from Missouri. There are a lot of players that could fit the bill for helping Arkansas out right away. Let's go to Kevin. No one has a backfield like Arkansas. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just the SEC West, you can make a case Arkansas's got the best backfield. I mean, obviously, Ole Miss with Quinshon Judkins would be someone that I think everyone would say probably has the best backfield because he's that good. LSU's got a really good backfield this next year. They got 8 scholarship running backs, which is a lot. It's going to be interesting to see what Texas A&M's backfield looks like. They got Ruben Owens, the 5-star, in their program now. What's Alabama's carry share going to look like after Jahmyr Gibbs left? I know it's going to be the Jace McClellan show. So, yeah, I would put Arkansas's group of backs probably second or third in the SEC. And I won't go too deep on my Rocket Sanders rant, but here's just a Cliff Notes version. You don't want Rocket Sanders to carry the load like he had to last year. I think that's very unsustainable. And you saw some regression hit with Rocket towards the end of last season. So it should be interesting. And also, with KJ Jefferson back there, he makes a lot of running backs look really freaking good. So there you go. Now, if it is in your heart's desire, you can always super chat a question. So there you go. Let's go to Kevin right here. Dan Enos said today that KJ can be just as good as anyone that he's ever coached. That includes Jalen Hurts and Mac Jones. Yeah, I mean, McCorkle had the best supporting cast, the best offensive line I've ever seen in the SEC. So, yeah, I think KJ is right there with Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts based on what he has done in college if you adjust for what he has to work with. Now could KJ Jefferson be Jalen Hurts in the NFL? I don't know because Jalen's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. So, yeah, I agree. And look, I think for me, KJ is the best quarterback in the SEC. I've done a lot of content regarding that. But there's a lot of guys you can make a case for. You can make a case for Jaden Daniels, obviously. You can make a case for what Carson Beck is going to have to work with this next year. But I think KJ is the most valuable player in the SEC. I think he's the most valuable player in the SEC last year. Let's go to JV's Hangout. Dominique Johnson is a beast running back, and if he's healthy, you'll see him a lot. I agree, and I think he's probably the most underrated and undersold player on the offense. This is a guy who obviously had that bruising game versus Texas week 2. The year before, and then season turned out to be pretty solid, and then he gets hurt early last year. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, this is a really good opportunity for Dominique to reassert himself as a potential NFLer down the road. He's not going to be a home run hitter like Rocket Sanders, but he's got size. And historically, one of the most telling statistics for SEC running backs is actually how heavy you are. Weight matters. Let's go to Kevin. Why is Jayden Daniels elite? Well, this is an Arkansas live stream. I talk about Jayden Daniels every single day. It just depends on what your definition of elite is. Now, do I think he's Caleb Williams? No. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in college football. I think that's fair. I think QBR backs that up. He's a top 20 QBR guy. Doesn't turn the football over, which obviously is a big W. He is definitely the best scrambler in all of college football. I don't think that's really debatable when you go look at scramble yards. I think the only thing missing is better accuracy and better vertical passing, and that's been the one thing he's worked on this entire offseason more than anything else. But, yeah, I would put KJ as my QB2 right now in the SEC, and he's got room to be the QB1 in the SEC. He could go down to QB3, QB4, QB5. So I truly do think he is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I can understand, though, in the Arkansas game, he didn't play well. He also had the flu. The entire team had the flu, basically. But yeah, he should have played better in that game. He should have. Are you wearing a Liverpool Football Club cap? I have a friend from Ireland who's a huge fan and got me into watching them. Very cool. There you go, JV's Hangout. Congratulations. Hope you subscribe, man. Yeah, I'm a huge Liverpool soccer fan. My wife and I got to go to Anfield last year. We hope you join us, JV's Hangout, as a Liverpool Football Club fan. Now, as being a college football YouTuber, I know whenever I talk EPL, I lose viewers, so I won't go too deep into it. But yes, welcome, JV, to the Reds fan club. Huge Liverpool fan. And JV, if I find one of my Liverpool cards, I'll send one to you. How about that? There you go. I didn't think we'd talk so much soccer tonight. Talk some Razorback soccer a little bit earlier. There you go. I couldn't name a single player on the team, but oh yeah. Just to show you, JV is my coaster right here. Got this in Anfield. Hey, I'm random. There you go, man. So we do all SEC teams, but every Thursday night at 6 p.m. I'm doing an Arkansas show. And we'll have random Arkansas Razorback guests. We had, obviously, Demetrius, who was awesome. We had Jacob Davis last week. So let's keep it going. Big time Butler. Speaking of which, big time, wearing a Baltimore Ravens logo. I have been drafting a lot of Lamar Jackson. A lot of Lamar Jackson. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to be one of the biggest surprises in the NFL. I want to see an aggressive air raid, which will open up the run on the flip side of aggressive defense that people fear. Wins championships, period. So, yeah, I think for me, aggressive air raid. Obviously, you're moving to more of a pro-stylish kind of offense with Dan Enos, which I think fits Sam Pittman better. Obviously, you have an air raid coach that left. And once again, the way the air raid was run with Kendall is different than how, Mike Leach ran it, and even different than how Art Briles ran it. I think for me, Dan Enos has been a middle tier offensive coordinator. I do think, though, ironically, his best year, and we talked a lot about Brandon Allen tonight. I'm a huge BA fan. I think BA, and here's one of my longtime viewers, LA Mom, lover. I'm a huge BA fan. I think that 2015 Arkansas offense was one of the best offenses to watch. They really were a lot of fun. They kind of get lost because when you think Arkansas offense, you think, McFadden, you think Bobby Petrino. But really, that 2015 offense was a lot of fun, and that kind of excites me about Dan Enos. So there you go. I'm a lifelong Chiefs fan. When I was growing up, you either watch Cowboys or Chiefs. Oh, yeah. You've seen a lot of bad football. Now you got, I think the Chiefs quarterback is kind of good. I don't remember who he is. He's kind of good. The one thing that people outside Arkansas will be shocked is when they play the Arkansas defensive line. Could be the best you've had since Trey Flowers. Yeah, that was a good era, right? The Trey Flowers. Who else was that? That was Chris Smith was around that time. RIP to him. Was it Jake Beckett, Dietrich Wise, that era? So I get it all jumbled up, the years those guys played. There's a lot of good ones. A lot of good ones around that time. Mark RWC. It's interesting, like you think about the biggest plays that an Arkansas Razorback has made. Trey Flowers sack versus Matt Ryan in the Super Bowl. Has to be top 5 most impactful Razorback plays. As Johnny points out. There you go. Mark. Hey, we could talk some Auburn here, Mark. You want to talk some Peyton Thorne? We can do that, man. JV says, I wish we still had Treylon Burks still. If we did, I think we'd make a huge run this year. So your worry is a wide receiver position for sure. Yeah, I understand you say you wish you had Treylon Burks. I think everybody does. I think the guy that I wish had one more year of eligibility was Matt Landers. Matt really started to come on towards the end of last year, started being a real deep threat, and you saw how good he was no matter who the quarterback was. He had that good touchdown versus LSU with Cade Fortin at quarterback. I think Matt Landers was kind of underrated towards the end of last year. I think Hazelwood leaving is true addition by subtraction. I don't think he was that good. I also think Trey Knox leaving, especially if Luke Haas turns out to be good, is some addition by subtraction as well. But I think Matt Landers was the true difference maker for that Arkansas offense last year. Now, Razorback fans in particular, I know Mark would be down for this. Would you guys want to do a fantasy football league where the prize would be a KJ Jefferson, like really nice card? Would you guys be down for that? Let me know. Type Y for yes, type in for no. And I would love to do that. I want to do some giveaways. I want to give out some of my stuff. I'm buying a bunch of KJ Jefferson cards to give out throughout the course of the season. So let me know if you guys like fantasy football. I love fantasy football. Okay. You could sign up now. Your wife is sick and making some soup? You got a sick wife and you're watching this show? I'm kidding. Now we'll talk some Auburn. You don't have to ask any questions. I'll talk some Auburn here because Auburn actually had the big story today when they announced Peyton Thorne is going to be their quarterback. Okay. So, what do we make of that? I honestly thought when the news was initially announced that Auburn was still going to roll with Robbie Ashford, but Robbie just could not throw to save his life. So, what do we make of that? Well, look, do I think Robbie Ashford is a good SEC quarterback? Not really, right? The throwing numbers were so bad. They really were. But as a runner, he is special. He is really special with the football in his hands. And athletically, he is as good as it gets. But, man, he just could not throw. Peyton Thorne, man. How good was he at Michigan State? I'll tell you this. He had elite skill guys to work with. He had Kenneth Walker. He had Keon Coleman. He had Jaden Reed for a few years, actually. So, yeah, I think, seeing Peyton Thorne going into this offense, I will say this about Auburn, and I swear by this. Hugh Freeze between the headset is as good as it gets. He knows how to game plan. He knows how to scheme up an opposition. As a lot of you Razorback fans know, he beat you guys last year. And I know KJ was hurt. It feels healthy. They probably don't win that game. But still. So Kevin wants in on the Arkansas Fantasy League. There you go, Kevin. Let's do this. Let's bring up our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Carter is the best way to get involved. Okay, Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com, promo code Carter. Sign up today. And let me show you how to sign up. There you go. So we're going to try and do a draft next week, and we'll give out a KJ Jefferson card. Promo code Carter, and we'll do it right here. Okay, you guys will draft on your own devices, but we'll stream it on here. Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. But yeah, Kevin, you can go ahead and sign up, get your account ready to go. $10 get you a $10 deposit match. So that means you have $20 in your account. And they deposit match all the way up to $100. So you deposit $100, guess what? Underdog gives you a $100 bonus. So there you go. I really appreciate Underdog Fantasy showing me some love as we grow this SEC and potential Arkansas Razorback community. As an Arkansas fan, I'm not ready for what Hugh Freeze is about to do with Auburn. Yeah, look, I mean, I know a lot of our friends in Jonesboro knows a lot about Hugh Freeze because he's an Arkansas State coach. Obviously, Gus has coached at Arkansas. Brian Harsin, I mean, Hugh Freeze is probably the best of them. And I don't know. I'm a big Gus guy. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Hugh Freeze is going to do at Auburn. But I like their coordinator hires. They've done some really good things in recruiting. I'm just saying. It just depends how you feel about Hugh Freeze. It depends if you're able to separate football from everything else. Look, I'm not endorsing any burner phone activities or anything like that. But I will tell you, this guy could really coach football. And he can get a lot of people to buy in. And he kept Cadillac Williams on staff. Okay? When you have a legendary player of his caliber still on your staff, who obviously has some head coach experience now, Auburn, watch out. Watch out. I saw this earlier today. This is a sign, okay? If you guys want to know a sign of a future SEC team, there was an Oklahoma media fight between two members of the Oklahoma media that was so brutal and vicious. I was like, wow, this lets me know that they are truly SEC caliber. So coming up here on an hour, I'll take a few more here, but if you want to go longer than an hour, feel free to super chat it because my wife just got home and I have a few chores to do. Chores. If you're married, you know what I'm talking about. Kevin wants to talk about Ole Miss and why they're getting so much hype. It's a good question. Okay. Let's chat some Ole Miss. What do I like about them? Well, Ole Miss definitely has one of the deepest QB rooms in the country. I think LSU has a better 1-2 than Ole Miss's 1-2 because obviously they've been in the system. But Ole Miss's 1-2 is really good depending on who you talk to. Is it going to be Jackson Dart? Is it going to be Spencer Sanders? I don't know. I think Ole Miss's team, obviously they're elite at running back. You know their offensive line is going to be solid. The Franklin kid that came over, how good is he going to be a receiver? We'll see. Defensively, I like what they brought in via the portal. I think the Louisville linebacker is pretty solid. And they bring in a national championship level defensive coordinator and Pete Golding. So, yeah, I mean, you got to like what Ole Miss has. The issue is going to be their schedule. Their road schedule is the worst in the SEC, and there's not a close second. They are at Tulane week 2. Okay. Tough. At Alabama week 4. At Auburn, albeit coming off a bye. They are at Georgia on November. And they are at Mississippi State on a short Thanksgiving rivalry week. So I like this Ole Miss team. I don't like the schedule. But here's the thing about the SEC West. And I was going to save this for next Thursday's live stream. I'll give you a little tease. I really like the uncertainty at the top if you are a bottom half SEC West team. Okay. I think it's pretty clear that Arkansas is in the bottom half of the SEC West historically. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, bottom half of the West. Kind of in the middle there is Auburn. And obviously Texas A&M is the biggest underachievers. The elites, though, is LSU and Alabama. Okay. Alabama doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be. Alabama's got a new OC. Alabama's got a new DC. They got a head coach who allowed Arkansas to get back into the game last year. And LSU, obviously, they are the team to beat for me in the West this next year. Still a lot of uncertainty, though, with how dominant they could be. So if you're Arkansas or Ole Miss, you do have a lot of certainty coming back to your team in the form of quarterback, right? So if there was a year where Arkansas or Ole Miss could break through, it very well could be this one, okay? Now, Arkansas, they did draw the most unusual schedule with the 4 road games smack dab in the middle, but you do get a bye week before that Florida game. And I feel the final month of the season for Arkansas is definitely one of the more favorable final months of the year. November is known as the toughest month, but You're at Florida, a team with the 5.5 win total. You get Auburn at home, a team with the 6 win total. Florida International at home, and you get Missouri at home, a team with the 6.5 win total. Okay. You have the best November schedule in the SEC, and it's not close. All right. You would obviously need a lot of luck in those middle 4 road games. Obviously, one of those is neutral. But 8-4 is where I have Arkansas right now. And they are one of my favorite overplays going into next year. And I'm not just saying that because I like being right on this. If you're new, the first ever or the second ever video we've ever done, I never missed a single over-under win total. I was perfect. So I want to keep that streak going, and one of my favorite plays is Arkansas over. Oh, Kevin, you're hurting me with this, man. Hope you signed up for Underdog now. Huh? You said LSU gets humbled week 1. I'm just going to say this. Don't bet against a team with Harold Perkins on it. I'm just saying. Harold Perkins is more athletic Tony Bua for the Arkansas fans watching. Well, you guys know who that is, obviously. Don't let Perk get hot. Don't let Perk get hot. So, if you want to get in contact with me, if you have any guest ideas, Arkansas fans, this is your show. Okay? Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Hit me up. My Twitter and Instagram handle is right here at Carter the Power. Okay? Now, for my LSU fans, I'll be live on the LSU channel, Power Hour LSU at 8:15. I'll chat in the Discord as well right now. And this is a good question right here from JV. Why can't we beat Mizzou consistently? Well, I mean, you lost to them in the Morris years. There's nothing you could do about that. You played in some legendarily shootout kind of games at Missouri these past couple of years. You played that chaotic 29-27 game. You got to remember, JV, Mizzou was actually playing for something. They were playing for a bowl game. Arkansas wasn't. Also got to keep in mind that's a short week. You also got to keep in mind the game is played on Thanksgiving weekend. Obviously, the year before, Arkansas blew the brakes off of Missouri. And the year before that, you played the shootout, right? So, yeah, I think for me, I think for me, the Missouri game is one that should favor you guys this next year. Okay. So, once again, if you guys want to hit me up at Carter the Power, next week, we will be giving away a KJ Jefferson silver card. Okay. It's one with a rainbow refractor on it. Earlier this year, we gave out a Treylon Burks very nice card to one of our viewers. I've not seen him in a while. So, yeah, next week we'll give out a KJ Jefferson card if we can get a fantasy draft going. How about that? So, yeah, y'all tune in. Y'all ready? Razorback fans, are you guys ready to blow this thing up here on Power Hour LSU? I'd say Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC. Let me know. Subscribe, ring the bell. Let a Razorback fan know about this. And we'll talk to you next Thursday. It is Power Hour SEC. Bam! And tonight, we're doing some rotisserie chicken salads. See you next Thursday. Let's freaking